What happens when one of America's most beloved actresses goes head-to-head with one of the country's most controversial talk show hosts? Julia Roberts, known for her grace and intelligence, sat down on Tucker Carlson tonight expecting a thoughtful discussion on community safety. Instead, it turned into one of the most heated gun control debates ever aired on live television. What started as policy talk spiraled into personal stories, emotional confessions, and an audience stunned into silence. Tonight, we break down every shocking moment. The studio of Tucker Carlson tonight was unusually still for a moment before the cameras rolled. Julia Roberts, known for her warm smile and graceful presence, sat opposite Tucker Carlson under the sharp, cool lights of the Fox News set. It was an unexpected pairing, Hollywood royalty meeting one of cable television's most polarizing commentators. From the moment the segment started, viewers could sense this wasn't going to be a typical, polite celebrity interview. Tucker kicked things off with his trademark directness, leaning forward slightly, his blue eyes locked on Julia. "Julia, you've been vocal lately about gun control. You've tweeted about it, you've posted about it on Instagram, and now you're here on national television to tell us why America needs more laws restricting firearms. Why should people who've never owned a gun have a say in how others protect themselves?" Julia took a slow breath, her expression calm but resolute. "Tucker, I'm not here to take anyone's rights away. I'm here because people are dying and it's preventable. I've read too many headlines about children caught in crossfire, families torn apart, and communities living in fear. I'm a mother of 3, and I can't just sit silently while gun violence rises year after year." Tucker raised an eyebrow. "But Julia, let's be honest. Hollywood celebrities fly in on private jets, live in gated communities, and then lecture regular Americans about guns. Don't you see how out of touch that seems?" The comment drew a faint gasp from a few audience members off camera. Julia, however, didn't flinch. She sat up straighter, her famous smile gone, replaced with a quiet seriousness. "I get why people feel that way, but let me be very clear. I grew up in Georgia. My stepfather was a Vietnam veteran who owned guns. I learned how to shoot when I was 12 years old. I respect gun owners. This isn't about demonizing people. It's about keeping guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them. Background checks, safe storage, red flag laws, these aren't radical ideas. They're common sense." Tucker smirked slightly, tilting his head. "Common sense to you, maybe, but where does it stop? You start with background checks, then bans on certain guns. Then what? People lose their right to defend themselves?" Julia leaned in, her tone soft but sharp. "It stops at saving lives, Tucker. That's where it stops. No one's coming to take your granddad's hunting rifle or your neighbor's shotgun. We're talking about weapons designed for war ending up in the hands of an 18-year-old who can't even legally buy a beer, but can legally buy an AR-15. How is that okay?" The studio fell silent for a beat. Even Tucker, known for quick comebacks, paused as he processed her words. Then, with a slight grin, he tried again. "Julia, you say it's about saving lives, but guns also save lives every single day. People defend their homes, their families, their businesses. Why don't we ever hear those stories from people like you?" Julia's jaw tightened slightly. "We do hear them, Tucker, but do you know what we hear more? Parents planning funerals, children running active shooter drills at school instead of playing tag, people too afraid to go to the grocery store because of what happened in Buffalo or Uvalde. I love this country. I want my kids and every kid to feel safe in it. That shouldn't be controversial." A ripple of applause broke out in the studio. Some of Tucker's viewers clapped, others sat stone-faced, arms crossed. The tension was palpable now, not hostile, but electric, like two people standing on opposite sides of a moral canyon. Tucker leaned back slightly, lips pursed, and said, "All right, so we know where you stand. And I've got to say, Julia, you came in swinging harder than I expected, but this is a conversation we need to have. So let's have it." The camera zoomed in slightly, capturing Julia's determined expression and Tucker's skeptical one, two worlds colliding on live television. The debate escalated almost immediately. Tucker Carlson leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, his expression somewhere between curiosity and skepticism. "Julia, you're an amazing actress. America loves your movies. But let's be honest, why should anyone listen to a Hollywood celebrity when it comes to guns? You live in a bubble. You've got security, gated homes, the whole deal. Regular Americans don't have that luxury. They depend on their guns." Julia kept her composure, though the flash in her eyes revealed she wasn't taking this lightly. "Tucker, I'm not here as a celebrity. I'm here as a mother, and as an American who's tired of seeing headlines about children dying at school. I don't need to live in a dangerous neighborhood to care about other people's kids." The audience murmured. The tension in the room was palpable. Tucker pressed on. "Look, nobody wants kids to get hurt, but you're talking about taking away constitutional rights. The Second Amendment isn't a Hollywood script, it's real life. For millions of Americans, that right is what keeps them safe." Julia leaned forward, voice steady but strong. "I'm not talking about taking anyone's hunting rifle or handgun away. I'm talking about common sense background checks, closing loopholes, and making sure people who shouldn't have guns don't get them. Are you really telling me that's unreasonable?" Tucker smiled tightly, sensing his opportunity to pivot. "But who decides who should and shouldn't own a gun? Some government bureaucrat? You think Washington is going to be fair about that? Come on, Julia. You know how politics works. Today, it's background checks. Tomorrow, it's banning entire types of guns." Julia shook her head. "Tucker, people are dying. Kids are doing active shooter drills in kindergarten. I had a friend lose her nephew to a school shooting last year. He was 6 years old. 6! And his family is never going to be the same. If background checks can stop even one family from living that nightmare, then yes, I think it's worth it." Her voice cracked slightly, and for the first time Tucker hesitated, shifting in his seat. The audience clapped, some even shouting, "Yes!" Julia seized the moment. "You keep saying freedom, but what kind of freedom is it when parents are scared to send their kids to school? When concerts, grocery stores, and churches are potential war zones? That's not freedom, Tucker. That's fear." Tucker straightened his tie and responded, voice sharper now. "Fear doesn't justify taking away rights, Julia. Do we need to fix some things? Sure. But you don't fix them by punishing responsible gun owners. And frankly, I think Hollywood is out of touch when it acts like it has the answers. You play heroes on screen. Regular Americans live it every day." Julia's expression hardened. "Maybe so, but I'd rather try to change things and be called out of touch than stay silent and watch more kids die. If that makes me the bad guy, so be it." The crowd erupted again, splitting between applause and murmurs of disagreement. The clash had officially become a cultural fault line, right there under the studio lights. The studio felt different now, quieter but heavier, as if everyone knew the conversation was about to cross into deeply personal territory. Julia Roberts took a deep breath, clasping her hands together on the table before speaking again, her voice softer but unwavering. "Tucker, I didn't come here to argue politics for sport. I came because this is personal for me. Years ago, my family had a close friend, sweet kid, named Matthew. He was just 15. One day, he went to a friend's house after school. The parents weren't home, but the dad kept a handgun unlocked in a bedside table. The kids were curious, like kids are. One of them thought it wasn't loaded. Matthew never came home that day." Her voice trembled, but she pressed on, looking Tucker directly in the eyes. "I'll never forget the sound of his mom's screams when she got the call. That pain doesn't go away, Tucker. And every single time I read about another shooting, I think about Matthew. I think about all those parents, all those families. That's why I'm here. That's why I can't just shrug and say, well, that's the price of freedom. The audience went silent, some visibly emotional. A woman in the second row wiped her eyes. Even Tucker paused, blinking a few times before responding, his voice lower than before. Julia, that's a horrible tragedy. No one wants that to happen. But you can't legislate away every bad choice or accident. There are 400 million guns in America. You think passing another law is going to stop something like that from happening again? Julia leaned in, her voice firming up again, tears still glistening in her eyes. I think we have to try. We have seatbelt laws because kids used to die unnecessarily in car accidents. We have smoke detectors because families used to burn in their sleep. We didn't shrug and say, well, accidents happen. We made changes, and it saved lives. Why is this any different?
Tucker's jaw tightened. Because the Second Amendment is different. It's in the Constitution for a reason. Guns are what keep people safe from tyranny, from criminals, from... Julia cut in, her voice rising now. Tyranny? Tell that to the parents who had to bury their kids because some teenager got an AR-15 from a private sale with no background check. You think they're comforted knowing their child died in the name of freedom? The audience burst into applause, some standing. Tucker tried to speak again, but stopped, realizing he was being drowned out by cheers. Julia sat back, visibly emotional, but resolute, her point made. I'm not anti-gun, Tucker. I'm anti-burying kids. There's a difference. The audience clapped again, longer this time, and even a few of Tucker's typical supporters hesitated before joining in. The flashpoint had hit. This was no longer about Hollywood versus middle America. It was about grief, morality, and what kind of country people wanted to live in.
The tension was electric, like the air before a storm. Tucker Carlson sat up straight, his trademark half-smirk returning, as if ready to regain control of the conversation. Julia, I understand your emotion. No one wants kids to die, okay? But we have to be honest about what's going on here. Hollywood elites love to use tragedies to push political agendas. You don't live in the real world where people need guns to protect their families. You have security details, gated homes, private drivers. The people watching at home, they don't. They rely on their rights. And every time someone like you pushes for common sense gun control, what they hear is, we're coming for your freedoms. Julia stared at him, clearly holding back her frustration. Tucker, this isn't about coming for your freedoms. It's about saving lives. I know people who grew up in rural areas who own guns responsibly, and I respect that. But let's not pretend every gun owner is responsible. There are gaping holes in the system, and those holes are killing people. You say I don't live in the real world, but the real world is where parents are planning funerals instead of birthday parties. That's real. Tucker leaned forward, his voice sharpening. And you think Washington can fix that? You think politicians, the same people who can't balance a budget, are going to stop evil with a piece of paper? The truth is, criminals don't follow laws. Gun control only hurts law-abiding people. Julia's hand came down on the desk with a soft thump. You know what else hurts law-abiding people, Tucker? Getting shot while buying groceries, being gunned down in a movie theater, losing your life because someone who shouldn't have had a gun was able to get one, no questions asked. If the laws are broken, fix them. Don't throw your hands up and say, oh well, nothing we can do. The audience erupted into applause, louder than before. A man in the front row stood and clapped, shouting, she's right! Others booed in response, creating a split down the middle of the room. Tucker raised his voice over the noise, his eyes narrowing. This is the problem. People like you think emotions should drive policy. But freedom isn't neat, Julia. Freedom is messy. You can't bubble wrap the world. Julia turned to him, her face tightening, voice trembling but powerful. freedom without responsibility isn't freedom, it's chaos. We're not talking about banning every gun, we're talking about background checks and keeping weapons of war out of the hands of unstable people. If that's controversial, then maybe the conversation we need to have is bigger than guns. A hush fell over the audience for a beat. Then applause broke out again, mixed with boos. The camera cut to audience members on their feet, some nodding in agreement, others visibly agitated. Tucker leaned back in his chair, his smirk now gone, replaced with a tense stare. So what's next? Confiscation? Registration? You say you're not against freedom, but every step you're talking about is one step closer to government control over every single person's life. That's not the America people signed up for. Julia stood, surprising everyone, her voice rising as she pointed toward the audience. This is America, Tucker, right here. People debating, people fighting for what they believe in. But you know what? While we argue, more people are dying. You can call me out of touch, you can call me emotional, but I'll sleep at night knowing I spoke up when it mattered. Can you say the same? The studio exploded, some cheering wildly, others booing loud enough to shake the walls. Security guards subtly moved closer to the stage, sensing the heightened tension. Tucker remained seated, visibly stiff, while Julia stood, breathing hard but composed, eyes glistening. Whoopi Goldberg, brought on as a guest moderator for that night, leaned into her mic with an incredulous smile. Okay, wow. I think we just had one of those moments people are going to be talking about for weeks. The audience, still buzzing, rose to their feet again, giving Julia a partial standing ovation, while others sat with crossed arms in defiance. It was messy, emotional, and unforgettable, exactly what would make headlines within hours.
The energy in the room slowly began to settle, though an undercurrent of tension still hummed. Julia Roberts sat back down, her posture softer now, but her face still carried the weight of the exchange. She took a deep breath before speaking again, this time with a steadier, quieter tone. Tucker, I want to be clear. I didn't come here to vilify gun owners or to say that anyone who supports the Second Amendment is wrong. I know there are people who love hunting, who grew up with guns as part of their family culture, and who handle them responsibly. This is not about dividing America further. It's about asking if we can all agree that kids shouldn't be dying in schools and grocery stores. That shouldn't be controversial. That should be common ground. The audience murmured, some nodding their heads in quiet agreement. Julia looked directly at Tucker, her expression sincere. I know you care about freedom, and I do too. But what kind of freedom are we leaving behind if parents have to send their children off to school and wonder if they'll come home? What kind of freedom is it when we can't go to a concert without fear? We can do better than this. We have to do better than this. Tucker leaned forward, his voice measured but firm. Julia, I appreciate your passion. Really, I do. And I don't doubt your sincerity. But the solutions you're proposing come with real consequences for people who haven't done anything wrong. That's my fear, that innocent Americans will pay the price for someone else's crime. Julia nodded, acknowledging the point. I understand that fear, Tucker. I don't want us to keep paying the price in children's lives instead. That's all I'm saying. The audience, which had been relatively quiet, erupted into applause. Not the chaotic mixture of boos and cheers from earlier, but a softer, more thoughtful wave of clapping. Julia turned toward the camera, her voice trembling slightly. I don't have all the answers, but I know we can't keep pretending this isn't happening. We owe it to each other to at least try. We owe it to those kids. Tucker straightened his papers, his expression unreadable. Well, folks, there you have it. Julia Roberts making the case for stricter gun laws right here on live television. I know you at home have a lot of opinions about this one, and trust me, so do I. The camera zoomed out as applause filled the studio once more, Julia offering a small, heartfelt smile as she mouthed, "Thank you," to the audience. What do you think?
did Julia Roberts make a powerful case for stricter gun laws, or was Tucker Carlson right to push back on protecting freedoms? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more celebrity showdowns that you cannot miss.